This is so powerful. And just a quick personal testimony. I remember when I first, and I guess we haven't done a teaching really on praying in the Holy Spirit in depth, but maybe in the future we'll do one on that at some point. But I remember hearing an incredible testimony of someone that this is back about 8 years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and I heard this testimony of someone who, Dave Roberson actually, who at one point just decided he was gonna, he felt a call in his life and felt like there was more than what he was seeing, and so he just decided to quit his job at a lumber mill, if I remember right, and take those 40 hours he used to be spending at the lumber mill and spend it in a prayer room he made for himself in the church, and like literally getting there at 8 o'clock, taking the lunch break with his old ex coworkers, and then getting back on, and so just literally 40 hours a week he would be praying, and most of that praying in the Spirit, because he said he quickly ran out of things to pray in English, and so anyway, and just miracles started breaking out after a couple months, and just amazing things. And so like when I heard that, I was like, wow, this is amazing, and just really encouraged me to pray in the Spirit as much as I could. And so I was doing that for a little while, and I remember I was at church one day, and I was helping with the young adults and the youth at that point, or I guess the youth technically at that church, and this younger guy, maybe he was 17 at the time or something like that, and he walks up to me, I think he just says hi. I guess he's kind of in a bad mood, and I was like, hey, like, but he kind of walked by, and I was like, hey, like, give me a hug, and he's like, okay, if it'll make you feel better about yourself, and gives me a hug, and he like walks off, and like I didn't think much about it, and until another younger guy who's with us, after the other guy walked off, he's like, man, I would have slapped him. And I was like, huh. And it was like it just hit me, like the contrast of his reaction that he vocalized and my reaction, which I didn't really think twice about it until he mentioned that. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like not long ago, that really would have bothered me. Like him saying that I just wanted to give him a hug to make myself feel better. But what I'd realize is like, wow, like God is growing me in love, because I wasn't hugging him for me, despite what he said. I was hugging him for him, to show him the love of God, and just to be friendly, and that was shortly after I really started to pray in the Spirit, and I could already see that, and also grow in the truths of walking out love, and it's interesting that same person later, there was another time, I think after that I gave him a hug just before or after a service or something, just real quick, and that same guy later told me that when I gave him a hug at a different point, that I felt the Holy Spirit just from the hug.
Wow.
I experienced the Holy Spirit.
Wow. And think if you would have been offended the first time, you may not have went in for it. Like you may not have wanted to give him a hug again.
Yeah.
If you were walking in like keeping a record of wrong or anything that is the opposite of love, then it's like God was able to use it again the next time you hugged him.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. And so it's just, Holy Spirit's amazing, and he's the one that empowers us to walk in the love of God.
Yeah.
By his grace. We can't do it on our own strength, but
right.
By his grace, he empowers us to do it.
Yeah. And two, we have to remember that we're not fighting against flesh and blood. And so it's like when people react like that, that's just a lack of love on their part. Like either they're not receiving the love of God, or that really is it. And that's what was trying to happen. And it was still trying to reject God's love through Thomas. And then it's like, but thankfully, since he was walking in the love of God, it's like he was able to reach out again to where that could pierce the boy's heart, you know. And so that's just an encouragement to all of us to just keep going. And, you know, we don't always know how long it'll take for someone. It sounds like this was actually a quick turnaround for that boy's heart. And sometimes it might take longer, but we get to put that in God's hands. Like he, just like it says, like some sow, some water, but he brings the increase. Yeah. So it's like we get to just keep sowing the love of God in people and trust him with the increase.
Yeah, so good.